and welcome to Interstellar News. We have come again with yet another episode of Orbital Rendezvous, and today's episode is special. We are covering the BRICS summit, but not in the usual way. In today's episode, we'll focus on some unknown facets of the BRICS summit, which is just a day away, which is tomorrow for us on 22nd of August. And the theme of this year's BRICS summit is Partnership for Mutually Accelerated Growth, Sustainable Development, and Inclusive Multilateralism. Now, in this heavily worded theme that usually all multilaterals have, there is an element of science diplomacy that comes along with it, and something that is usually lost in a lot of discussions. In this episode of Orbital Rendezvous, we have the man who's at the center of all these activities in the eye of storm, Dr. Sanjeev Varshne. He heads the International Cooperation Division of Government of India's Department of
Namaskar.
Science and Technology. Namaskar, Dr. Varshne. Welcome to the show. Sir, as I said, you are in the heart of it. You are in the heart of the preparations for BRICS Summit and the science diplomacy that goes behind it. We at Interstellar are largely focused on space sciences, but we do look at various other aspects of science, strategy thinking, as well as science diplomacy. Could you please introduce to our audience what has BRICS multilateral got to do with space and astronomy? When did it all begin? And what are the action plans for this year? And which are the scientific agencies part of it? Is ISRO part of it?
Thank you very much for the introduction. In fact, I am responsible to lead Indian mission on science and technology cooperation within BRICS community. And astronomy and astrophysics is one of the important component of this collaboration. We started discussing how BRICS scientists could work together on such things like astronomy uh, in 2018 when India hosted the meeting. And as you are aware that BRICS keeps on moving from presidency to presidency each year. So we discussed it subsequent meetings also, including China, South Africa, and it is gaining grounds. And eventually, uh, each of the BRICS member nation has their own strength in this field of astrophysics, and they have their beautiful telescopes which are giving information. But it is a need that if we could do observations on similar objects simultaneously from different geographic locations, and that is the advantage BRICS platform brings, because countries, if you see from west to east, they are two of them are in west, or three of them are in west of India, and then one China on the east. And if you see in terms of hemisphere also, then two of them are in southern hemisphere and three in northern. So when we are studying similar objects from different geographic locations, it gives a better understanding, and we hope that eventually, in time to come, of course, discussions are on that we could also set up a BRICS telescope, which would be set up in one of the member countries. And I hope you are familiar with the BRICS philosophy that whatever we decide is decided by consensus. It's nothing like voting. So either we agree or we disagree. So we need to take a call where it would be located. And South Africa has already committed its fund for that. Other countries will come up in time to come, but that is one of the ambition this group is having in time to come.
Uh, So you mentioned about geography. And the geography is quite enormous. Russia is huge. So is China. So is Brazil. So is India. And you mentioned about the hemispheres, both the eastern, western, and northern, southern. So that's an enormous geography, and that gives tremendous bandwidth to observe the skies in both the hemispheres and the skies, the constellations, and all that. Uh, and you also mentioned that there is a telescope coming up. So is DST going alone in India to build the telescope, or will it partner with, let's say, Atomic Energy or any other agency?
Uh, in fact, most of our major telescopes they are serviced by some of our leading organizations like Indian Institute of Astrophysics, Aryabhatta Research Institute of Observational Sciences, Inter-University Accelerators for Astronomy and Astrophysics, and then there are scientists who are sitting in other institutes. These three are the lead institutes. And then we do get meaningful collaborations from other departments, including Department of Space, Department of Atomic Energy, and there are several programs even outside BRICS where we are collaborating. So normally, Department of Science and Technology acts as a facilitator, and it is the scientific community which makes programs and make use of these facilities.
So it appears to me that in the past five odd years since the BRICS astronomy group began, the focus was more on data sharing, astronomical data sharing
Yes.
between the scientists residing in these five countries. And now the effort is more towards construction of a telescope. Uh,
Construction of telescope and also utilizing each other facilities.
mhm, mhm. So that means Indian scientists can use facilities run by the Chinese Academy of Sciences.
Yes, so they can use each other facility. Of course, we have exchange list of such telescopes which are available. Not all telescopes are available
Mhm,
for such collaborations because for certain, like in near Nainital, there is a place called Devsthal where we have got Asia's biggest optical telescope. Now, it has got time allocation committee, and only 7% time is reserved for international collaborations. So they have to apply within that. Some other equipment, like our facility at Leh, that is open, and we are receiving more applications from foreign participants. So it depends from equipment to equipment, and each country need to define how many applications they can receive from member countries for collaboration on a particular machine.
So time is a major constraint when it comes to existing telescopes. But once the BRICS multilateral builds its own telescope, time wouldn't be a constraint because it will be open for all the scientists. Is that so?
So right now our facilities are not confined to BRICS nations. So
Hmm.
the new one which we are targeting would be exclusively for the BRICS members countries. So wherever it comes up, it would be its users would be primarily, but the existing equipments are open either for national use or for international use with no uh, preference for BRICS members. But we are we are asking each other that let us make good use of facilities which are already available in addition to what we are planning to create.
So there is a great amount of excitement about this year's BRICS summit because it is, concurrently happening with the G20 summit, which is next month. There is the ASEAN summit coming up a few days from now. So tell us, and there is also an expansion of the BRICS grouping on the anvil. So there are a lot of discussions on that. So once this telescope is, the proposal for it is tabled or proceeded, or the progress is seen, do we see the new members also joining the telescope operations or the construction?
Actually, this is more to do with the foreign ministry track because they need to define what would be the nature of new members. Will they be full members? Will they be associate members? And what would be their privileges? Because these five countries, as we call BRICS, We have been working together for quite some time, and we have reached a lot of understanding amongst ourselves. Now, when we are considering new members, would they be eligible for same right or not? I think foreign ministry will take a look on that, and then individual subject departments, like we are dealing with science cooperation. So depending upon instructions or suggestions we receive from the foreign ministry, we will associate new members in that capacity.
So your department runs one of the highest placed observatory in the world in Hanle, which is run by the Indian Institute of Astrophysics. And likewise, there are Chinese telescopes on the other side of the border uh, on the same altitudes. Uh, can we see? I mean, just for the interest of our audience, who's largely interested in India-China relations, can we see some cooperation there happening between the telescopes that reside in the Himalayan plateau?
Actually, Himalaya is a very sensitive part when we are looking at Indo-Chinese relationship, and we require some additional clearances for such partnership. But for BRICS, I understand uh, we are much more open, and what we have agreed in scientific partnerships, that at least three BRICS member nations must participate in an activity. So, of course, each activity is decided by consensus, all five member consents, but at least three member countries should participate. And if a proposal like that is agreed to by the BRICS member state, obviously. Now, you mentioned about Hanle. Uh, People need not to go to Hanle because this instrument is remotely operated from Bangalore. And even sitting in Bangalore, you could make observation using Hanle facility, and you could maneuver the device the way you feel like. So it is possible, and we are open on BRICS platform. We are also open on India Chinese platform, but of course there are some additional clearances which are required.
Okay. Uh, so, what is the agenda that India is taking to this year's BRICS Astronomy Working Group?
No, as I mentioned earlier, we have two clear agenda. One, we are looking to set up this BRICS telescope. So we need to discuss what would be the telescope, what would be uh, configuration, where it will come, and who will contribute how much. That is one major agenda. And second agenda is, of course, to make use of our facilities and take it forward. So we are looking more and more collaborative research proposals in time to come.
So my last question is: there's one major issue arising in the global astronomy community, and this community is getting really agitated about the growing number of satellite constellations. There is a constellation run by American companies, by the Chinese companies. India has stakes in one of the major constellations run by OneWeb, company called OneWeb. And the biggest impediment from these constellations, optical or visual impediment, comes to astronomers because they're unable to do their nighttime observations. These constellation satellites come into their field of view every now and then and become a major hindrance. So, are we looking at such agendas uh, while discussing in the BRICS summit or in the working group? Is there any effort on it?
Not in BRICS working group right now. Working group on science and technology or on astrophysics astronomy, we are not discussing this issue right now.
But any chances of this getting discussed maybe in the future?
Well, in future, I can't say about future as of now, but it depends upon growing scientific concerns. If it comes up in a significant way, of course, we can't avoid it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we need to take a call on that.
Okay. And so finally, you've been part of various multilateral and bilateral, interactions, not just about astronomy, but about a wide range of scientific fields. What sort of headways are we looking at headways to make in the coming few months, especially with the G20 summit also on the anvil on the horizon.
No, there are two kind of things. One is setting up of some major telescopes. So, for example, India is one of the members to set up 30-meter telescope at Hawaii, and this project has been delayed a lot. But now we are seeing some light at the end of the tunnel, and we do hope that by 2025 construction will start, and this would be the biggest telescope, 30-meter uh, wide. And India is partnering along with United States, Canada, Japan, China, and one more country. I'm just missing the name. Secondly, if we see in the southern hemisphere, we are going to become member of square kilometer array. So this facility would be set up in Australia and South Africa, and India would be a member, making our scientists would be utilizing these facilities. So these are the two immediately upcoming facilities, and also I feel that there is a huge demand that in other parts, especially access to European telescope uh, for Indian scientific community is also being discussed, and we are looking forward for those opportunities.
So when you mean European telescopes, the telescopes that are located in Europe as well
In
as
Europe.
in Chile,
In Chile, yes.
in
Chile
Chile
also,
as well.
yes. South America, sorry, I forgot to mention.
Yeah, yeah. So, for the interest of the audience, what we are talking about here is the fact that European Southern Observatory, which is one of the biggest scientific astronomical agencies of Europe, runs several state-of-the-art telescopes in the Atacama Desert of Chile. And just like the telescopes located in Ladakh, the telescopes in Atacama also enjoy the benefits of being placed at really high altitudes and
Yeah,
being located in a desert climate. So, getting an access to the telescopes located in Atacama is something that will, benefit our astronomy community tremendously. Sir, thank you so much for, you know, giving your precious time for this interview.
yeah,
I know you've been quite busy with the BRICS summit,
yeah.
and we hope to have you on the show again and again. And
Sure.
please apprise us with the latest
Thanks,
developments
Chaitanya.
happening in science diplomacy. Yeah, thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you so
thanks,
much.
Chaitanya.